What if I told you that while you were paying record prices at the grocery store, your own government allowed over 10 million illegal border crossings? In the next 9 minutes, we're going to name the names, show you the numbers, and tell you the story Washington does not want you to hear. Let's start with the facts because the facts are devastating. According to U.S. Customs and Border Protection, a federal agency under the Department of Homeland Security, fiscal year 2021 saw 1.7 million border encounters. That was already a record. Then fiscal year 2022 shattered it with 2 million, and 2023 pushed even further to 4 million encounters recorded at the southwest border alone. For context, that is more than the entire population of the state of New Mexico in a single year. Now add the category that CBP calls gotaways, people who crossed our border and successfully evaded capture. The government's own estimates put that number at over 1.8 million gotaways between 2021 and 2023. These are individuals whose identities we don't know, whose intentions we don't know, and whose whereabouts inside the United States we don't know. Let that sink in. More than 1.5 million people living inside America right now, unvetted, untracked, unknown. Meanwhile, fentanyl seizures at the southern border hit record highs year after year. CBP reported seizing over 27,000 pounds of fentanyl in fiscal year 2023, enough to kill every single American multiple times over. And those are just the seizures. The drugs that got through. Nobody can count them. So how did we get here? This didn't happen by accident. It happened by design. On January 20th, 2021, day one, President Joe Biden signed a series of executive orders that began dismantling the border framework his predecessor had built. The migrant protection protocols, known as Remain in Mexico, had required asylum seekers to wait in Mexico while their cases were processed in U.S. courts. Biden ended it. The order went to the courts, got restored, got appealed, and was ultimately terminated in August 2022. An estimated 70,000 individuals were enrolled in MPP when it was canceled. The program was gone. Next was Title 42, a public health authority that allowed rapid expulsions at the border. It was used roughly 2.5 million times during the COVID era. The Biden administration fought in court for years over this policy and ultimately let it expire in May 2023. The result? Illegal crossings spiked overnight. Then there is Secretary of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas. He stood before the American people and declared on multiple occasions that the border was, quote, secure. He said it in 2021. He said it in 2022. He said it as millions were pouring across. In February 2024, the U.S. House of Representatives voted to impeach Mayorkas, making him only the second cabinet secretary in American history to be impeached. The charges: willful refusal to comply with federal immigration law and breach of public trust. The Senate, controlled by Democrats, refused to hold a trial. They tabled the articles and Mayorkas remained in office. Here is where the story gets darker, and where the mainstream media went almost completely silent. In September 2021, the world briefly paid attention to Del Rio, Texas, a small border town of about 35,000 people. Overnight, a makeshift camp appeared under the International Bridge. At its peak, nearly 15,000 Haitian migrants were gathered there in squalid conditions. Images went around the world. Then the cameras left, and so did the coverage. What the cameras didn't show: the ranchers whose land was being destroyed, the property damage, the livestock killed, the wells contaminated, the families in these border communities who called 911 and waited hours for a response because law enforcement was overwhelmed. Eagle Pass, Texas, a town of 28,000, became the epicenter of the crisis in 2023 and 2024. In a single week in December 2023, agents encountered over 12,000 illegal crossings in that sector. 12,000 people in 1 week in one town. Texas Governor Greg Abbott deployed the Texas National Guard and Texas Department of Public Safety under Operation Lone Star, a state-level response to a federal failure. The federal government responded by taking Texas to court, not over the border crisis, over the razor wire Texas put up to stop it. Bales of razor wire, and the Biden administration went to the Supreme Court of the United States to have them removed. But this story isn't just about politics. It is about people. Laken Riley was a 22-year-old nursing student in Georgia. She was murdered in February 2024 while jogging on the University of Georgia campus. Her alleged killer, Jose Ibarra, a Venezuelan national who had crossed the border illegally in 2022 and been released into the United States. He had a prior arrest record, including child endangerment. He should not have been here. He was here. Laken Riley paid the price. Her name became a flashpoint in the national debate. It was uttered on the floor of Congress. It was invoked in a State of the Union address. And it represented the thousands of stories, many never told, of Americans victimized by people who never should have made it across our border. The human trafficking networks, the cartels, which effectively now control corridor access along significant stretches of the border, charging thousands of dollars per person. The children found alone, without parents, turned over to government contractors, some of whom the government later admitted it had lost track of. The Department of Health and Human Services acknowledged it could not contact tens of thousands of migrant children placed with sponsors inside the United States. Tens of thousands of children. In November 2024, the American people made a decision. Donald Trump won the presidential election in a historic electoral landslide, carrying not just traditional battleground states, but expanding the map in ways no Republican had in decades. Exit polls showed immigration was the #1 issue for voters. Day one of the new administration brought an emergency declaration at the southern border. Deportation flights began immediately. The Remain in Mexico policy was reinstated. The National Guard was deployed under Title X authority. By early 2025, border crossings had dropped by over 90% compared to the peak months of the Biden era. The policies that work had always worked. They were simply not enforced. This is the story the corporate media buried. America First Daily is here to make sure you hear it. If this video opened your eyes, hit that subscribe button right now. Ring the bell. Share this with someone who needs to see it. The truth doesn't go viral on its own. We need your help. America First Daily. The news, the facts, no filter.